We are 30 minutes into the U.S. trading day on this Wednesday, March 27th. Here are the top stories we're following. Baltimore bridge disaster. Search operations still underway in Baltimore after a major commuter bridge collapsed yesterday after being struck by a container ship. We'll bring you the latest reporting from the grounds. AI outside of NVIDIA. What are the best ways to play the artificial intelligence craze outside of just NVIDIA? We'll ask Kim Forrest of Boca Capital. And housing market check. Home supply is finally ticking higher, but most homebuyers still face affordability issues. Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman joins in just a bit. I'm Katie Greifeld in New York. Welcome to Bloomberg Markets. You take a look at markets at the moment, and of course, we are looking to snap a 3-day losing streak on the S&P 500, currently higher by about 0.4%, and it's rare, but actually, big tech is the underperformer right now, with the Nasdaq 100 currently flat, just about maybe 0.1% higher, but relatively small moves relative to the rest of the market. And actually, it's small caps that are leading the way. Interestingly enough, of course, the Russell 2000 currently up about 0.8%. But let's get back to the big story this week, and that is that 6 construction workers are presumed dead, with authorities set to resume recovery efforts following yesterday's bridge collapse issue. Really appreciate your time. That is Jonathan Salama. He is the CEO of Transfix. Now, coming up, Robinhood going for gold, literally. Robinhood, you probably know them as a trading platform, but the company is unveiling a new credit card, and the gold card is going to offer 3% back on all purchases. Joining us now with more is Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow. And Ed, what's the vision here? Is this just diversifying revenues?
Yeah, more than diversifying revenues. I think Robin.
Now, still ahead, we're going to take a look at the companies making the most social buzz today in our Social Climber segment, up next. This is Bloomberg. For Social Climbers, a look at the stocks making waves on social media this morning. And first up, GameStop dropping like a rock after reporting plunging revenue. The meme stock darling also said it was cutting jobs as it tries to contend with weak consumer spending and increased competition. Next up, Canada Goose getting cooked by climate change. The Toronto-based retailer announcing it will cut 17% of its corporate workforce. Sales hit thanks to unseasonably warm temperatures in the U.S. And finally, we have H&M, of course, reporting today, and it's making a lot of buzz. And you can follow all the latest company buzz on TREN Go on your Bloomberg terminal. Coming up, we're going to speak to Glenn Kelman. Well, U.S. mortgage applications, they fell 0.7% last week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, as high rates still keeping the buyers away. For more on the housing market, we're joined now by Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle.
Well, Katie, this chart really shows us some of the...
Thank you so much. And for more on the housing market, let's keep this conversation going with Glenn Kelman. He is the CEO of online real estate firm Redfin. Glenn, great to have you with me. I want to get to the dynamics of the housing market, but let's actually start with the National Association of Retailers. Recently, a class action settlement over agent commissions, which theoretically should lower the agent commissions that are paid. Do you think that this will change the experience of buying and selling homes in the U.S.?
It could. The jury is still out on how enforceable that settlement is. So it
goes far enough?
That's an interesting question. I think the real challenge is whether the settlement can be enforced.
And so, of course, like you said, the jury's still out on whether this can be enforced. But let's say it is enforced. Do you think that it is significant enough to really change the day-to-day dynamics of the housing market? Specifically, do you think that it will change seller or buyer behavior?
Well,
to pick up this conversation, of course, as we get more details. But let's talk about the actual dynamics of the housing market. Of course, supply has been the conversation, this real undersupply that we have, structurally speaking. We did see a little bit of an uptick if you look at the data recently. And I'm curious, from where you're sitting, do you think that that's sustainable?
We'll see. So demand from home sellers.
It's because it's a conversation, of course, about interest rates, et cetera, but it's also a story about human psychology, like you're talking about. There's people who've been trying to sell their home or wanting to, they've been waiting for so long and just need to move. Are there people on the other side who need to buy, who have been waiting around for rates to drop, starting to get a little bit of relief, and this actually translates into sales volume? Instead, and they're renting their homes if they can't buy in specific situations. Are you seeing any trends when it comes to home prices versus rental prices?
Well, I think there's been more
Conversation, of course,
Yeah.
always fascinating to talk about what's going on in the housing market. It's been frozen for so long. Our thanks to Glenn Kelman of Redfin. Of course, an interesting comparison too about the rental market versus the actual home buying market. Let's get a check on these equity markets, though. We're going to do that with Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle.
So
Just a little bit tired, less enthusiastic. Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle, thank you so much. Now coming up, I'm pleased to say we're going to be joined by Dr. Helene Gale. She is. All right, it's time now for our daily Wall Street Week segment. And today we're looking at the state of higher education, specifically at Spelman College and other HBCUs. Dr. Helene Gale, president of Spelman College, and Wall Street Week host David Weston join us now. And David, I know that you're particularly interested in the management of universities.
Well, exactly. It's so expensive, and we hear so much about student debt. I just wonder how this is going to all work out. So, Dr. Gale, thank you so much.
We appreciate your time this morning. Our thanks, of course, to Dr. Helene Gale, the president of Spelman College. David, who else do we have coming up on Wall Street?
So tomorrow we got Josh Bolton, who is the head of the Business Roundtable. He's going to talk to us about the view from the C-suite on the presidential elections coming up. And then on Friday, we're going to have Glenn Hubbard, the economist coming from Columbia Business School. And he's going to talk to us about a pro-growth strategy, whether we have one in this country. That's coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Friday.
All right, a lot to look forward there to. Thank you to David. This is Bloomberg. All right, let's take a quick look at some stocks hitting highs today, and Disney hitting a